that. And this leads us perfectly to Pentecost. And this is what you wanted to talk about at the beginning. So your book put Pentecost in context for me to see how it has nothing to do with the church reaching another level of spiritual development, but rather, as you've already said, Pentecost is a sign of the global dominion of the risen and ascended Jesus. Before I go any further, tell us about the power of Pentecost in the book of Acts.
Okay. What we have in Acts 1, as we were just saying, is the fact that there is now a human being, part of this earth, who is now in heaven. Some people already find that blows their mind so much they can't grasp it. But the idea of a bit of the stuff of this earth, the earthiness of this earth, being resident in heaven, people who think platonically, that would be a category mistake. People who think biblically would say, aha, yes, this is what was always supposed to happen. But then with Pentecost, what we get is the breath of heaven, the ruach, the new life, the life-giving wind coming to earth. So that Acts 1 is about heaven and earth being joined in the person of Jesus. Acts 2 is about heaven and earth being joined in the person of the Spirit. And the book which I've been working on for years, which God willing is coming out roughly this time next year, God's Homecoming, this is all about the double homecoming of God promising in Scripture to come and dwell with his people. And this happens in Jesus, and then it happens spectacularly with the Spirit. And I think it's because particularly the Protestant churches have not understood the temple theology which is driving all this, that it's become over-personalized and over what about me and my spiritual development. And so that Pentecostals, while obviously there's all sorts of good things that have happened through an awareness of new work of the Spirit in the church, but it's meant that people have then thought that Acts was simply about, as you say, layers of spirituality. Have you got to stage 1 or stage 2, or is there a third blessing as well? Whatever. You find the same thing in Acts 8 when Peter and John go to Samaria in order to lay hands on the new converts there. That isn't about, oh dear, they need a second blessing. It's about, let's be quite clear that this is not something other than what began in Jerusalem. Otherwise, you would have right from the beginning an ethnic divide in the church between Jews on the one hand and Samaritans on the other. And they're absolutely determined to avoid that. So on the day of Pentecost, this is the eschatological fulfillment. This is the beginning of the whole new thing that God was always wanting to do. Hence the quotation of prophecies like from the book of Joel about your sons and your daughters prophesying and your young men and maidens, old men and people dreaming dreams and seeing visions. This is the new thing that God always intended. So that the sense then is that from that moment on, the church is constituted as a kind of mobile temple, that wherever the church goes, wherever 2 or 3 meet, whether it's in Corinth or Philippi or in a prison cell in Rome or wherever, there, in fact, the living God is personally present and active and at work. And so that the gospel is then being incarnated, being lived out, and people see it and they know something is different. And that's sometimes scary. They want to persecute. They want to get rid of this new thing. It disrupts their way of life. Other times they say, this is amazing. We didn't know that it was possible for human beings to live like this. Where do we join? And then you can tell the story of Jesus. So that's how it goes.